Hello, everyone, Trailblazing families and world schoolers to be. Thank you so much for joining us today. We have two awesome parents with us today to help us understand how to hire help while we're traveling. One other parent couldn't make it at the last minute because of her voice going out. And I have a couple other parents who were not able to make it schedule-wise. It's hard because we're all over the world and to figure out the best time to meet. So they did write me something, which I will read in a bit. But the topic today is hiring nannies, tutors, or private teachers, not a school, but like a private teacher, either at the destinations we visit or online or to travel with the family while world schooling. As we know, raising and helping kids learn often takes a village, even while world schooling. It's not always easy to juggle travel, work, activities, acclimating to a new culture and location, as well as, handling the kids' learning. Some of us don't have time to be full-time workers and full-time homeschool parents. So it's a little tricky with our nomadic lifestyle, and sometimes it makes sense to hire others to help. So I'm really happy to have Amanda Ashworth here and Doran Goshen to help us talk about this topic. We have a bunch of people who have RSVP'd for this event. I don't know if they're all going to show up, but hopefully they'll at least watch the replay. But yeah, so hello, Amanda and Doran. How are you guys?
Good, thanks for having us.
Okay, Amanda, let's check. I'm going to ask you a few questions and maybe you go first and then we'll switch to Doran. Where are you from originally? What's your home base?
So originally we're from the UK. We're from Cambridge in the UK. A year ago, we moved our base to Dubai.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. And where are you currently?
I'm currently in Bali, so I'm here for the next 3 months.
Wonderful. Wonderful. And how many kids do you have and what are their ages?
I have 3 children, 15, 5 and 3, so quite spread out.
Yeah, interesting. That's awesome. Yeah, that's interesting because you're world schooling a teen and then 2 younger ones. So that must be lots of fun for you. And how long have you been world schooling?
So we've been world schooling on and off 7 years.
Okay, excellent. We left about 7 years ago too. So do you world school full-time or part-time? And you mentioned you have a home base now in Dubai. So how do you do it?
Yeah, so for the last year, we've been based in our home base. So the younger 2 went into school and nursery. So we kind of decided to give that a shot and that didn't work. And we found that really restrictive because it's so hard having 1 child out and 2 in, like making it work. And over the years, we've done everything from part-time to we kind of went up to 6 months a year. We have dogs, so we always knew that we needed a base. And my partner also has a full-time job, so he can't travel in the same way that we do.
Okay, so your dogs are in Dubai.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. So then you and your kids kind of travel in and out of Dubai and he's there most of the time?
So we've just started traveling again. So we're going to probably spend 7 of the next 12 months traveling.
All of you? Or, because
he's just been here in Bali. He's had to go back. He's got to move house. Dubai was a move to, firstly for the son and secondly for the tax, because we knew that we wanted to travel long term. So it was setting up our kind of base of where could we commute like around the world, that most places are within 5 to 7 hours, which is good.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, I asked because I get a lot of people wanting to travel, but their spouse is working. They have a job where it's hard for them to travel. And surprisingly, I meet a lot of parents, married parents, mostly moms, who are able to, who travel without their other spouse. Maybe they'll go away for a month or 2, and then the husband will come for a week or so, and then they'll go back to their home base. So it is possible. Lots of people are doing it. Interesting. Okay, so Doran, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from originally, and what's your do you have a home base?
So we are originally from Israel, and we left, actually it will be in a few days, it will be 2 years ago.
Okay.
So yeah, and we don't have such a home base. We left Israel with no intention to go back. So we are like full-time traveling.
Awesome. Awesome. And how many kids do you have in their ages?
Their ages are almost 9 and 7. Yeah, a boy and a girl.
That's great. That's a great age to world school. All ages are
Yes.
good. All right. So you've been doing it for 2 years and full time. That's wonderful. So you sold everything. You're not keeping a house or anything in Israel.
Nothing. Yes.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so let's get back to the talking about hiring nannies or tutors, either in person or online, or a private teacher. Amanda, which have you done in the past?
I've done everything. So we've had nannies in 4 different countries. We've used online tutors for the last 7 years. We've done online schools, in-person schools in multiple countries. So we've kind of tried out a variety of what works for our family and what's changed over the time as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. My kids and I have tried a bunch of different ways too. So, okay, what about you, Doran? Which methods have you tried?
What I've been trying so far, we haven't done nannies. We have done local teachers, Zoom teachers, or via platforms. And also like trying some kind of like local schools or stuff like that. That's what we've had.
Okay,
And
good.
teaching ourselves.
Okay, so and when you're teaching the kids yourself, do you consider yourself more of a homeschooler or self-directed unschooler type of family? How does that work?
Actually, I've never went into the titles, so I don't know how to describe it, but when we do teach, I take like a specific time, and I try to teach in a fun way the things that they are important for me, which are mostly language, writing, reading, and
Okay.
languages, and the rest of the things we just have fun together and being parents.
Okay, so you're kind of eclectic, doing a mix of things. All right,
Yeah.
let's talk about nannies first. But before we do, I want to check to see if we have any comments from US. Somebody says, thank you, listening from the US. Awesome. And yeah, so I just wanted to mention to everyone watching live, if you have any questions, please ask in the chat and I will read them to Doran and Amanda. And okay, so let's talk about nannies first. And again, I have a couple other people who couldn't make it today, so I have something to read. But first, I think, Amanda, you said that you have done it. So what was the reason why you hired the nannies in the various countries that you were at? I mean, I'm guessing you're working and needed a little extra help, right?
So I work online, and I'm generally always also studying, and because I travel on my own quite a lot with the kids, as the kids have multiplied, having that extra pair of hands. So that's in addition to, so like in Bali, any of the places that we're staying also have home help as well. But a nanny is there for not just for when I need to work, but also when I need some self-care, because if not, it's impossible.
It's important for us moms to take care of ourselves. Lately, I have not had time for that. And I'm hoping the light at the end of the tunnel, that I can do that. So how did you go about finding the nannies? And tell us again the countries that you hired nannies.
So I have had nannies in the UK. We have had live-in help in Dubai for the last year. We had help in Goa, in India. And then recently in Bali, we've had help as well.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah, I mean, I have hired nannies when we were in Chiang Mai, Thailand, in Medellin, Colombia, in Mexico, a little bit when we were in Peru. My kids were attending a local school there in the Sacred Valley, but I could not afford nannies in the US. I mean, they're $15, $20, $25 an hour, and they attended preschools and daycares, and I owned an indoor children's play cafe. So they spent a lot of time there. Luckily, I was very lucky, even as a solo mom, of having a very involved grandmother, my mom. But again, traveling, nannies are a single mom's best friend. It's any parent's best friend who needs to get work done. Okay, so how did you find the nannies?
So my nanny in Dubai was via an agency. So we kept her via an agency because if not, we would have had to have sponsored her. then my nanny in India, she came with the house that we were in. And at the time my little one was 4 weeks old. So I had a toddler and just needed that extra pair of hands every day just to amuse my toddler. So I got her via that. In Bali recently, just via an agency, and Facebook groups as well. I've always been really good.
That's great. I mean, I'm guessing the agencies are a little bit more expensive, but at least you have the company there. Hopefully they're doing a background check or, vetting the nanny and maybe help making sure they're, I don't know, first aid, CPR trained, that kind of stuff. Like, I don't know if a nanny on the street would do that. And at least you have a little security there, knowing that there's a company behind hiring the nanny. It might be worth a little extra. Would you agree?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Just to vet them, especially if I'm just wanting somebody on an ad hoc basis. As I say, if you're having a nanny longer term, obviously there are lots of visa implications, which I've been looking for a traveling teacher for quite a while. And again, passports are a major thing to actually finding somebody that can travel with ease with us.
Yes. Now, again, I'm going to read something from Kimberly later, and she did hire a nanny from Venezuela when they were in Peru, and then they started traveling together, even to Europe. So I left her a message like, how was your Venezuelan nanny with that passport? I mean, sorry, unfortunately, some countries that have a lot of political, economic issues, it's hard to travel. And I haven't heard back from her yet, but I'm really curious about that, because again, you have to find somebody who you can afford, but also has the right passport to go to the countries you want to go to. So was it difficult or easy to find the right nanny? I mean, the nanny agency, did they just send you one, or was there a few for you to choose from?
So in Dubai, it's actually quite horrifying the way that you can actually find a nanny via an agency. You watch some videos and it's almost like ordering from Amazon. They're Uber to you.
Okay.
And you can be Ubered away instantly as well. So it feels very transactional, which I wasn't used to prior to that, because I was used to going through the interview process. And about 20 years ago, I used to be a nanny, and then I had an agency as well. So it's different. But say like the lady that we had with us for the last year, she was from Uganda, so she couldn't travel. And actually what we found is she ended up having 2 months this year where she was actually just at home looking after our dogs, because she couldn't travel with us because of her passport.
Yeah. Oh, that's awful. So when you have a nanny, let's talk about how many hours they work, kind of what you pay them, what they do. So can you share? I mean, I'm sure it varies by the country you're at, right?
Yeah, it varies by the country, and obviously whether or not they live in or not. So our nanny in Dubai, she was getting about $1,000 a month, and she would work 6 days a week, Monday to Saturday. We would pay her extra. So again, when the children were in school there, she would get up and help with the breakfast, etc. And then she would finish at about 7 in the evening and do some babysitting.
Okay. And then did she also clean? What were her duties other than caring for the children?
Yeah, cleaning. So what I found in my experience and with all of my friends is it's very hard to find a nanny or a helper that can generally do cooking, cleaning, and childcare. So you normally find somebody that's good at 1 or 2 of those. And so for us, so quite often it's common in Dubai for each child to have a nanny. We just had one, but kind of almost her sole responsibility was almost my youngest. So my 15-year-old doesn't need a nanny, and I didn't want anyone picking up after him, whereas my 3-year-old does definitely want people to play with her.
Yeah, exactly. Interesting. Okay, so did you feel comfortable with the nannies? You had several different ones, but did you feel comfortable with them right away, or was there an adjustment period?
So the first nanny I had, so I'd had nannies in the UK years and years ago when my son was younger, and that was a necessity because I needed to be out of the house and go to work. But then the nanny that I had in India, she was almost like my angel. The fact that, she things were just done without asking for it. And so she kind of set the bar quite high. The nanny that we had in Dubai, there was an adjustment period. Obviously, someone living with you, and doing things the way you want them to do it. That's very different from, say, like here in Bali, I will probably just have somebody one day a week. So it's very ad hoc.
Okay, interesting. I want to mention when I was born in South Korea, and back then it was very affordable to hire a nanny, not nowadays. So I grew up with I know it sounds very spoiled, but I grew up with a live-in nanny, not the whole time, but either my aunt or my grandmother or this live-in nanny lived with us, and she had a room and she had Sundays off, and she was like, again, was like a mother to me, and we loved her. She was part of our family. So it was so helpful because my mom and dad were working. So let's see, we have a couple of questions. I just want to mention, Sade is listening from the US, Atlanta. Layla is said, would you rather hire a nanny that speaks the local language or a bilingual one? Good question. And then Sade says, Dubai is beautiful. I hope to be able to go someday. Yeah, so let's talk about the language that you, for the nannies, that what is important? Do they need to speak your language?
They need to have a certain level of English to be able to. Now that my daughter's like 3.5, her English is like, so she can communicate her needs. Yeah. But again, especially for safety, there are just a few things that I would require. So no, they don't have to be fluent in English, but there needs to be a level of understanding.
Yeah, that is a good point, because when we were in Medellin, Colombia, I tried a couple different nannies. The first one didn't work out. She, again, didn't speak any English. We were trying to, my girls were trying, we were all trying to learn Spanish. I mean, I speak some, but we were trying to improve it. So I thought, okay, with my intermediate Spanish should be fine. It should be fine. But the nanny took my girls to a playground, and Aubrey was on the top of the monkey bars or something. And then she said to the nanny, catch me. And the nanny didn't understand. And so Aubrey fell and her tooth went through here. I don't know how she did it. Maybe she bit down on it. And of course, they come home, blood everywhere. We have to jump in a taxi, take her to the emergency room, and, tried to get her stitches. She was freaking out. So we cleaned it up. But it was, because of the language difficulties, that the nanny didn't understand what she was saying. Obviously, was not very good for Aubrey. She was 9 years old at the time with ADHD, very impulsive to do that. So yes, that was a little scary. But again, we've had people, other nannies who speak Spanish, and nothing bad happened. So, but yeah, bilingual is good. A little bit more expensive, I would think, but maybe to communicate so the kids can explain their needs is a good thing. Okay, so did you have any worries or concerns about a nanny taking care of your kids?
No, and I think it's been a gradual thing. So up until I moved to Dubai, apart from the nanny that I had many years ago in the UK, I hadn't left my kids with anybody apart from my dad. So that was a gradual thing. But moving away from friends and family, you don't have that village around you. So you have to kind of, if you want to have date night or you need to work, you need to find those people. Right.
What I did was, I hired someone, interviewed them, background check as much as possible, calling references, got recommendations from people. And then even when I had a tutor come to the house for an hour or two, I would take a picture of their government ID, just in case. And they were fine. And I just said for safety. So knock on wood, they've all been wonderful and trustworthy. And other than that one issue with the nanny, the one nanny couldn't handle my ADHD kiddo. And that's another thing. I'm going to read something from a mom who has a son with autism. So she pays extra to find the person who could handle her kid. Okay, so any advice for parents who'd like to hire a nanny in general?
I think it's working out what works for you. So like, because I have a 15-year-old, he's not responsible enough to take care of his sisters, but he is almost like a watching eye. So if we, like, say that when we had a nanny the other day, I messaged him and was like, how's it going? And that I know that he's just around, and that gives me some comfort. But I think making sure that things are written down and that there is clear instruction of what the do's and don'ts. So, you know, if you do allow screen times, you know, if there are allergies, especially if there is a language barrier, making sure that that's understood.
Exactly. Good. Okay. Now we're going to switch over to Doran, and I know, Doran, you have not hired a nanny. So let's talk about the tutors and private teachers and other things that you have done. So I'm guessing you and your partner are working, and this is why you need extra help, or you just don't feel like you want to homeschool your kids all the time. So this is more education related, right?
Yeah, so I am working, but I think that the main reason more than that is that it's different to teach as a parent. The relationship is different, and I love it when we do teach. What can come up for the relationship and for the learning, but I think it's not instead of a teacher, at least from my experience. And like I see that because the other teacher is fully on this, yeah, that's their expertise. And with the relationship, they don't have all the history of being a parent and all the issues in between. So it's just working better.
Yeah, they can keep it more professional, I guess.
Yes.
Okay, so how did you go about finding the teachers or tutors that you were, and this was in person and then also online, right?
Yes, so we've tried several. One thing that we've tried and did not work that well was our kids, they did not know English when we left Israel, so they spoke only Hebrew. Now they do speak English and más o menos Spanish as well.
Okay.
So we tried to find an English teacher.
Okay.
We started with a platform of online teachers.
Which platform was it?
I forgot the name. I'll try to remember in a minute.
There's one called Preply that I know of.
No, I think it's not one of the most common ones that I'll try to remember the name. But
Okay.
anyway, I think it's even better that I don't say, because I don't really recommend it.
Okay.
So it didn't work for us mostly because of connection problems, which were on the platform side, as far as I understand. So it disconnected, and it didn't work well. And the teachers, they had the style of like having it a lot of fun. So it's nice in one way, but it did not work for my son. It was like as too childish. So for my girl, it did work, but it was also not stable with the teachers. They were so it was okay, but it didn't work for a long time. What did work for English much better was when we were in Medellin. We found a local teacher that is teaching Spanish and English, whatever you want, and she's also American. And it was not cheap, like the pricing, but she was amazing. She had so much experience. Her passion was language and teaching language, and and she was so much fun. And it's a great way to establish relationship, like one-on-one, face-to-face. So
okay, you met her in person?
Yes. So
would she come to your place or would you go to hers?
She would come to our place. She also offered, which I really liked, to go to her place or to just do things together, so we could go to the park with her. So we did not fulfill this because for my son, he needs his feeling safe at home in these situations. But I think it's a great idea. I think it could work very well.
Do you remember how much you paid her?
Yes, it was in Dominican pesos. It was 100,000, so roughly $25, I think.
Okay, per hour. Yeah, that's kind of high, but
yes. So, but I can say from like general experience in life and as an entrepreneur and like hiring people, if I would really want, I'm sure, like I can sign that I would find someone very good in a much lower price, because my experience in life is that there is no necessary connection between how good the person is in what they do and how much they charge because of different reasons.
Yeah.
So if it would have been an issue, I could have found someone,
Right.
but it was not an issue for us. So we really loved her. It was okay for us to pay the price.
And you preferred her to come to you and be face-to-face versus online?
I think I would usually prefer that as if possible, but at the same time, I know it's not possible for everything and all the time. So we also have another teacher who was teaching them English before, and now she's teaching them Spanish because she knows both, and she's Israeli and she speaks Hebrew. And she started via Zoom from first time. So with what I think is important, and like always, but more so with Zoom, is establishing the connection before. So what we said to teachers when we started, I told them, look, I'm not in a hurry. I want them to learn. I want them to develop, but there is no rush. There is no exam. I don't care about what school would say. So take care of the relationship, create a connection. Whenever you can move forward with more teaching, go for it.
That's wonderful. Yeah, so my girls have been trying to learn Spanish, and we started traveling when they were 7.5. One of them is getting good. The other one with ADHD, she keeps changing, wants to learn Japanese, wants to learn Turkish. She keeps changing her mind. But Gabby has been pretty consistent, and we weren't doing a lot of formal Spanish learning other than some, well, they did Duolingo, and they would do a Spanish club once, like an online Spanish club once a week with an online school that they used to attend. But we decided we spent 5 months in Buenos Aires, and, you know, for her to get really good, I initially tried to enroll her in a group class, you know, at one of those language institutes. They wouldn't accept her in a group class because of her age. She was 13 at the time. So I found a local Spanish teacher, and Gabby could have met with her in person, you know, at a cafe. And we did twice, but Gabby preferred to have the online classes.
Wow.
And it was, yeah, and we found an online school in Spanish for Argentine teens that was run by a local university, but Gabby's language, needed to get better. So for 2 hours a day, 5 days a week for a month, I had the Spanish tutor really go from kind of the beginning and really teach her the grammar, because I feel like when you're traveling and talking and, you know, meeting locals, maybe attending a local school, the kids are learning a lot of vocabulary and, you know, words and stuff, but not so much the grammar and the structure, or really knowing how to read and write the language as well as speaking. So it was really effective because she had 100% attention, you know, I mean, the teacher was focused on her, and then one day Gabby was tired and the teacher noticed, you know, whereas I think in a group class it's hard to notice and the kids can kind of drift off. But yeah, it was funny that how she preferred the online versus meeting in person. She thought it was more efficient, and she's introverted and all that. Okay, so you had the language tutors. Have you had any other types of tutors for your kids, either online or in person, or private teachers?
Let me think. I think no. I think it was mostly language. For math, we use an amazing app, Matific they're called. They're originally from Israel, but they did something in different languages, and it's so much fun. So we just enjoy it this way. And with languages, I do agree with what you said, the importance of the daily meetings. So the higher, like the most progress my kids did was when they were in like a tiny school where they speak English, or when they were with a teacher every day. But this is the experience that I've got. No,
Okay.
actually, I would change. I have a little experience also with finding teachers of I wanted to give my child a breakdance because he loved it, or like other, so it's more like martial arts and stuff like that. And the way I found those teachers, also the language, is either Facebook groups, like asking, or WhatsApp groups and asking for recommendations. Specifically in Colombia, Medellin, I found a website, they call it Super Prof, and like you have you pay something, and then you have an open list of all teachers, online or physical meeting, for whatever you want, and you can contact them and just try it. And they give you one first class for free, I think, even.
And these
So
are in-person classes?
so it would be in person or via Zoom, whatever. You have both options.
Okay. And then it would be, it sounds like OutSchool, but you know.
Yeah, it's a bit like that.
version. And then it would be a group class or one-on-one?
One-on-one.
Okay.
This platform is for one-on-one.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, when we were in Medellin for 6 months, we lived by that giant sports stadium. And so we went, my girls had karate and gymnastics, and the nanny would walk them there. We had a Venezuelan nanny. The second nanny we had in Colombia was amazing. She was a former teacher in Venezuela. And so she lived with us, and I only needed her about 20 hours a week, but she would take my kids to the classes. And also I found a cooking class that she would take an Uber with them. So that's awesome. Okay, so any other advice that you have for parents who want to hire a tutor or a teacher? I mean, you've given some great tips.
For me, I spoke before about relationship, but I think more so as world schoolers, we do have the option as parents, if we really want, to find teachers that are good for our children. I mean, not that are only professional at what they do, that can connect with them. So I would put an emphasis on this one, and trying to find the right one for them, and the one that has the good connection with children and with our children needs. So this is one that.
Yeah, very true. It's not just are they skillful, but do the personalities of the tutor and the teacher and the kids match, and do they connect? No, I agree, because that Spanish tutor in Buenos Aires was a bit strict, and she was very good, but she was a bit strict. So I think, yeah, my kids are sensitive, you know, and I feel like they're more willing to learn and be open and all of that if they have a positive relationship versus a teacher that's too schooly and strict. Okay, interesting. So do you think your kids may attend university? Is that why you're hiring tutors? I mean, it's mostly for language and kind of extracurricular activities, so not super academic yet, right?
So if you're asking me, I personally, I'm not worried about university. I'm also, to be honest, not a big fan of universities. So I have been myself, but for me personally, it was the waste of time, and I'm more of an entrepreneur. So I have a belief, and we'll see if I'm right or wrong, that if they keep joy of learning, and like learning is not something that is but it's fun. So when they do want to learn something, they will grab it. I hope I'm right. We'll
Yeah.
see.
No, again, I feel the same way you do. I think universities no longer have a monopoly on knowledge like they did in the past because of the internet. And one of my girls is probably going down the creator or, you know, she's very creative or entrepreneurial track. The other one still thinks that she wants to go to university. She still feels she has ADHD. So she feels like she thinks she has a harder time self-directing her learning, but she is brilliant at learning new things. But she still has this mentality that she has to learn certain things, you know, to succeed in life, kind of the academic stuff. Okay, so Janelle is here. Hey, she says music classes on OutSchool. We have found a great one. One-on-one teachers for violin, ukulele, flute, and piano cost about $28 to $35 US per lesson with a great teacher. Awesome. Dance too, online works great. Really, that's awesome. And flexible with travel. Gymnastics is a bit tougher due to the space, but we've done that too. Gymnastics online, Janelle, that's interesting. Yeah, cool. Thank you for those comments. Okay, so Amanda, do your kids plan to go to university? I mean, well, one's 15, the other are young.
Yeah, so my 15-year-old, we've done a variety. So when he first came out of school, so he was at school till he was 7. He then did an online school. But with a live online school, obviously, as you travel, time zones become difficult, and when you're listening back to recordings, it's not quite the same because you don't have that engagement.
Which online school was it?
He did one in the UK called Bright School. I don't know if they still exist, but yeah, he did that for a few years. Then we went down the tutor and classes route. So he's done in-person classes. We've used Preply a lot. He's had some tutors on there for like 4 years in various subjects. And then at the moment, he's got an English teacher that he's had for the last 3 years.
Okay, good. Okay, so you have done the tutors as well.
Yeah, so he's done some of his IGCSEs. He's doing them in stages. So he's done 3 already. We're going back to the UK in October for him to do 3 more, and then he'll do his final 2 next May. Okay,
for those non-British, can you explain the IGCSEs are basically like our Americans SAT test, right? To get into
university. No, so IGCSEs are pre-A levels. So in Australia and the US, you go to 18, whereas in the UK, you do exams at 16. And then in order to get to that next stage and do your A levels.
Okay, so the A level is to prepare for university, yes?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So if you don't want to go to university, you can finish school at 16 and get a job?
No, you used to be able to. In the UK now, no, you can't. You either go into, I think you might be able to go into full-time employment, but either like additional learning or training.
Okay,
I think
like a college trade school, something like that.
Yeah, or an apprenticeship, or learning on the job.
Okay, so what route is your 15-year-old on?
So we think that we've just been looking at it. We think he's going to go down the route of doing a foundation year. So because we're not limited to, although he follows the UK curriculum, we're not limited to him being in the UK. So all schools in Dubai are private, so they're quite expensive. So he doesn't at the moment, he's self-studying for his GCSEs, and he doesn't want to do that for A levels. So there's kind of 3 options. We go back to the UK and he does them there. He does them in Dubai, or there is an option for him to do a foundation course, which guarantees him entry into university, which I think we may go down that route.
Okay, interesting. That's great. So, I mean, you consider yourself world schoolers, homeschoolers, by getting ready for that route, right?
Yeah. So, and again, with every child, it's different. So I would say normally physical in-person classes would be things like cookery classes, art classes, gymnastics classes, dance classes, because they're harder to do. Whereas the online ones that we've done language, we've done English. He had a psychology teacher, he's had science teachers, so we've done a whole raft really.
And how do you find these teachers?
So as I say, Preply is a really good one. There's also loads of Facebook groups. So again, what you realize when you're no longer confined to, I don't look at English teachers, so most of our tutors have masters in whatever they teach. So I actually find that they're higher educated than some of the tutors we might get in the UK.
Interesting. Okay, great. So let me read something that Pandora shared. She was not able to join us. And then if you, either Amanda or Doran, have anything to add later, feel free. So she said, in a nutshell, we left the US after selling everything with only what we could fit in our minivan, 2 kids aged 4 and 5 at the time. Our first stop was San Miguel de Allende, where I had interviewed a couple preschools by phone video and had chosen one. The day before they were meant to start, I met another Worldschooling mom at a cafe who had just pulled her child from the same school for reasons that were deal breakers for me. So we were suddenly left with no childcare and needing to work. I asked around in the Facebook expat group and was lining up interviews when I saw a post, a general travel in Mexico group for an international nanny who had been working in London for the last couple of years, had been an au pair in the States and was well-traveled. She was Mexican and wanted a position anywhere in Mexico so she could come back for a while. She had several families pursuing her, but we managed to hire her. So she came to San Miguel and lived with us for a few weeks, and then we moved to Puerto Escondido. She moved there with us. We paid her $15 an hour, and she required a 30-hour minimum. We paid about $12 an hour for other sitters when we needed extra help. She was brilliant and would have stayed with us permanently had we managed to stay in Mexico. Family situation brought us back to the States eventually. She went on to work in a very fancy hotel kids club. Amanda, you mentioned you've used that before in Dubai, and now is a private nanny for another family traveling Europe. Our plan is to get to Portugal, and when we do, she will meet us there and we will hire her again. Good. In Playa del Carmen, Mexico, I interviewed a couple nannies off the Facebook Moms group and hired one fantastic woman. But this time my kids were 6 and 7. The going rate there last year was $8-9 US per hour. But because my son is autistic and needs very patient caregivers and more attention, she asked for $12 an hour. And I was thrilled with the care she gave. It's not super easy to find high caliber childcare anywhere, even here in the States, but with some searching, I'm convinced you could always find good caregivers, but it's not cheap. And I mentioned to her, I was like, yeah, you were paying more per hour than I have for nannies. And she said, we paid up for sure. My son being autistic meant I needed someone with pretty great English skills. Yeah, bilingual is a little more expensive. A willingness to work with his sensory needs and breakdowns. Most importantly, he had pretty significant food sensitivities. And I found it very difficult to find Mexican nannies who really understood that he can't eat certain things. I soon realized I'd need to pay up to double what some people were paying for that kind of care that I needed. But for some families, just watching after the kids and making sure everyone is safe is enough. And that kind of care can be had for far less, especially outside the main tourist areas. Okay, so any of you have anything to add to what Pandora said?
I think it's just doing whatever suits your family at that time. So like, you know, you've your daughter with ADHD or her child with autism. Obviously, if there are additional needs in place, and again, doing what suits your budget as well, because as you world school for longer and you've got an income coming in, your budgets begin to change.
Yeah. Exactly. And you had mentioned the kids club before. When we first started traveling almost 7 years ago, my kids, we didn't travel much. I did before my kids were born, but I was running a business, working 7 days a week. So we went to California once, but and the Oregon coast, but that was it. So I booked us into a nice hotel with a kids club just to kind of ease us into it. So that was kind of our holiday, our vacation, you know, before we started, you know, booking cheaper places to live and trying to live more like maybe not a local, but kind of like a short-term expat. But Amberly, you said, or Amanda, you said that you have been you've used kids clubs as well.
Yeah, so in Dubai, we had a membership. So there's a membership called Privilege, which allows you access to all the hotels and all of their kids clubs. So again, a lot of my clients are in Dubai. So if I had to physically go and do a meeting, the kids can go into kids club. So my 3-year-old is at that age where only some kids club will take her without a nanny. But Dubai also has the option of drop-in childcare as well. So like day nurseries and kindergarten nurseries that are open from like 7 a.m. till 10 p.m. like 6 days a week. So it has lots of flexible options.
Yeah, super convenient, I would think. We have drop-in childcare in the States too, and they're not cheap. I'm sure in Dubai it's not cheap either. Okay, great. So let me just read some things. Kimberly also was not able to join us. She's from the US. She said world schooling with kids since they were born. They're now 9 and 6. So it's quite a while. I hired a nanny teacher, traveled with her to 3 countries, 5 cities, and also hired other teachers, nannies in different cities in person and online. The nannies I've always hired come with more of an educational background, and I prefer them to be teachers. I should meet up. We're a digital nomad family traveling for 11 years now. So Kimberly, so again, she mentioned she wanted experience in education to help with homeschooling. She found a Venezuelan who was living in Peru and in the past, you know, in Venezuela was a teacher. Her tips are when hiring and interviewing, be very clear as to what type of skills and what are the things that you want them to do, what are the deal breakers, and you want to make sure that you're getting what you need from them for your kids, but also very open and your family works and what your kids like. Don't try really easy to take care of, like, she said. And, clear communication from the beginning when hiring a nanny. Once a person actually started, I didn't leave herself in the beginning. So and for the kids, at first time to mom would another part. Mom left hours. Kids were like her, but loved her. She would seem Hey, thanks for watching. I'm Lizz Quain. My twins and I have been traveling and world schooling for about 7 years, and I'm happy to share our experiences. Make sure to check out all the other videos on my channel. I have a playlist of interviews of fascinating world school families and service providers who share lots of info and wisdom about world schooling, traveling, and the digital nomad family lifestyle. If you're new to world schooling or have recently launched and are struggling because you're kind of winging it, if you need some help, I do have a super comprehensive 12-week program on how to world school and travel extensively as a family. I share lots of info on travel logistics, where to go, how to find community, how to immerse yourself into local cultures, and the variety of ways to educate your kids while traveling above and beyond homeschooling them yourself, and much, much more. Make sure to watch my free 2-hour masterclass on how to become a world schooling trailblazing family. That is a great way to learn how to get started. I'll include a link in the description with more info. Thanks and happy trails.